Welcome to Spotlight Sessions, where we shine a
What's
light
your
on
story?
incredible. What does accessibility mean to you?
What's your mission? Welcome all to accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions, where we shine a light on incredible individuals and organizations and the work that they do. I'm your host, Josh Basil. I'm a C4-5 quadriplegic, paralyzed below my shoulders, and a power wheelchair user. I am 37 years old, Caucasian. I am wearing a gray half-zip jacket with a white collar. I've got some computer technology in front of my face, and on my background, I have some pictures of my kids on the wall. And I am also the community relations manager at accessiBe and a passionate disability rights advocate and trial attorney focused on breaking down barriers to access and inclusion for people with disabilities. Today on accessiBe Spotlight Sessions, we are joined by Selina Mills, an award-winning writer and broadcaster who's legally blind. Welcome, Selina.
Hi, hello.
I'm very excited to have you on today and for us to learn more about you and to tell your story and the work you're doing. So let's just do that. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, as you said, my name's Selina Mills. I'm a Caucasian woman with dark hair with a few grey hairs. And I made a huge effort today and put lipstick on, so there you go.
Thank you.
And I'm wearing a black sweater with I always have things like my grandmother's necklace around my neck, and then a little necklace that my husband gave me, which has an owl and a pussycat and a boat in it, and it's very nice because I can feel it. It's like almost like a little mini statue around my neck, so I love having that there. And I am a writer and broadcaster, and I'm legally blind, so I can still see a bit of colour and a bit of light. And if I've got all the right technology, I can do a lot of things. And I'm about to, what have I done recently? Last year I wrote an opera libretto about a blind woman, and that was very exciting because it got onto a London stage. And this year I've just finished a book on the history of blind people, or blindness, rather than blind people, which looks at how we treat or assume about around blindness, particularly in different Western history, how we've looked at blindness and how that impacts us today. So that's my and I also have a job. So I'm doing quite a lot at the moment.
And with being a writer, a journalist, and a disability rights advocate, what was the big motivating factor, and when did it all start?
I started losing my sight in my 30s, and I think what shocked me the most was how people treated me. It wasn't so much that I was losing my sight, which was already, just difficult, but it seemed to me quite a practical thing I had to deal with, whereas it was actually how people treated me. Some people, said I was faking it because I could see something. Some people pitied me and like, oh, you poor thing. And very few people just treated me like I was already. Like, they had known me for years, and yet suddenly I was like different. And I think I just remember once being accused of faking my blindness by a train guard. And I took out my false eye just to prove to him, really. And I thought, what am I doing? Why am I engaging with this? And why is he like that? What is it that has made him assume that I would go to the trouble of faking it? And I think from that moment, I sort of begun to think about history and how it impacts us. And it kind of filters into what we do today. And I started doing some research, and then I went to a dinner at my old university, and I met an archaeologist who said, oh, we know that blind people have been around since 45,000 years ago because we found some, archaeology that proves it. And you're like, oh my God, it's not just a 21st century concept of being disabled. And so I just, from that moment on, I think it was those two moments. One was going to a history dinner and thinking about it. And then the other one was when someone accused me of faking it.
I hate and love those type of stories, but they're so real and it's so true. It's like why would anybody, let's say somebody did want to fake their disability. There's so few that actually exist, and then it's like for us, just we want to be part of the world and have inclusion, get to where we need to go safely, and nobody's faking it. Like no,
Well,
but
it comes from, but what I found out was that the medieval times, it was very, very normal in Europe to consider anyone with funny eyes to be part, like be the devil.
wow.
So like if you start thinking, oh, okay, or there were plays in the 13th century where blind people were sighted people acted as blind people, and therefore people thought, well, if you can act it, then you can fake it. So
Wow.
it's been embedded in our psyche for a long, long time. And alongside that, there's the overarching sort of disability story anyway, which is that, God forbid that you're a burden on society. So that sort of adds into it. So you've got the charity model, you've got the medical model, you've got the what I call the inspirational model. So either you're a burden or you're an inspiration. But what if you're just normal and get up every day and go to work? That heaven forbid that you are just normal and ordinary. It's really hard to convince people that, just, I don't need to be inspirational to be blind. I just happen to be
No.
blind,
And when it comes to almost being a historian of sort around disability and research
Definitely. Well, of
and knowing
sorts,
it,
I am a historian.
I love it. I love that. I would love a business card or just that itself. That's a pretty cool title.
Thank you.
But what are some moments in history that are great teaching moments for others to know about disability?
Well, one is the Neanderthal. So in 2001, some archaeologists were in the Tigris River on the border of Iraq and Turkey, and they found these skeletons. And all the skeletons were buried sort of by the river, and there was one skeleton buried on the inside of a cave. And they DNA'd him and they carbon dated him, and he turned out to be 45,000 years old. And they also know that he died when he was 45. Everybody else died when they were 28. So, okay, that's interesting. He's older. And the second thing they found out was that he was blind because he had eye diseases in his eye sockets. And that means, and they gave him a nickname. They called him Nandi the Neanderthal. And when I heard that story, it was like a wave from the past. It was like, okay, we have been on this planet, all of us, for thousands of years, including the blind people. And I love that. I love that moment. It was like a wave from the past telling me it's okay, you're not alone. And that really just thrilled me. And then on the woman's side, I was obviously like, there's lots of blind men out there. Sorry, Josh, but I love men, but okay, where were the women? And they were all nuns. They're like religious nuns. You're like, good for you, but we're not all religious nuns. So I think the next moment was discovering this musician called Teresa von Paradis, who was an opera composer, a musician, an inventor, who made more money than Mozart, who traveled all over Europe in the 18th century. And she played with George III, and she went to Russia, and she went everywhere, and she had affairs with Mozart and Haydn and Salieri, and yet we never knew of her. And she was referred to in the Times of London as the blind enchantress. And you think, how come we know about Mozart, but we don't know about her? And so I think that was another moment where I just thought, hang on, there must be more people out there. We just haven't looked for them, or we haven't found them.
I absolutely love these stories here. There's always more to learn. There's always more to dive deeper into, and
Absolutely.
these are great teaching moments. It's just we all come with our own unique abilities, and disability doesn't discriminate on age, or it can happen to anyone at any time and any point in history. We've been living with unique abilities forever and ever.
I
That's
agree.
part of the human story.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the human story is also as we're getting better within the world of accessibility. And I would love to know, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you when you hear the word accessibility?
I think freedom of choice. So I don't want to have to, at the moment in Britain, if you want to take a train and you want help, You have to book it 2 days in advance. You can't just turn up at the train station, get on a train like everybody else. And I find that frustrating. It's getting better, but it's sort of a sense of I'm not special. I just need a different way of doing it. That's all. I need a ramp, or I need, help, guidance. I think freedom also comes in how you're treated. So I wish people would ask me what I wanted rather than assume what I wanted. So I get a lot of people dragging me across the road. I always feel like there must be a bad joke somewhere about like, why did the blind chicken cross the road? Because it had no choice, because it was just like dragged by somebody else. I just think it's about freedom of choice and allowing people who have disabilities to make the choices themselves.
And the whole asking part, I think, is super important, that people with disabilities are not going to bite you if you ask them for, what it is they need help with. Because guess what? If they don't need help, they'll let you know. But if they do need help, thank you for asking.
I always say thank you for asking, always. And like the other day, I was getting on a train and somebody grabbed my cane and pulled it.
Wow.
And I was like, and I wanted to scream, but I was very proud of myself. I didn't scream. And I just said, and I stood still, and she's like, no, I'm trying to get you on the train. I said, you know what? That's not very helpful for me right now. I'm just going to stand still, and then I'm going to wait and readjust. Even if I miss the train, I'd rather miss the train and be safe than you dragging me with it, and it was done with such good meaning, no one, she didn't mean it badly.
But it's a teaching moment when you can tell someone that and let them know that
gently,
absolutely. What's one thing that you wish more people knew about the blind community that they don't know?
That blindness is on a spectrum. So you might not be completely blind. You might see color, you might see blur, you might see black and white, you might have peripheral vision, you might have central vision. And I think most people think the word blind means complete darkness, and it doesn't at all. And in fact, even being blind is, so my right eye is completely blind. I don't see darkness, I just don't see. And therefore, there's a sort of misconception, and maybe that also taps into the faking it fear, which is, if you don't fit into this sort of perfect little box of what you think a blind person can and cannot do because you don't understand it's on a spectrum, then, it's very difficult for all of us in the blind community just to be treated as normal human beings.
I love that. And the truth is most disabilities are on a spectrum, whether, a lot of people think of it as, the autism spectrum, but with paralysis, every single level of injury, for instance, spinal cord injury, is a different world of functionality. And there's so much we can learn about disability. It's just not one shoe fits all within it. And now the other thing I would love to ask you is, like, when it comes to, like, if there's one thing in the world that we could do better to make the world more inclusive, what do you think that would be for society?
I don't know if you had this in America with the ADA, but in Britain, when we changed the laws in the 90s, and then we had the Equality Act in 2010, the battle cry was nothing about us without us. And yes. I think I sort of feel that is my, just why would you ever assume you can do anything without asking us, whether it's creating an app, a ramp, a door handle, and then say, and then be really annoyed that we go, well, actually, it doesn't work for me. Sorry, sorry, So I think my one magic wand is that people learn to ask, what do we want, rather than assuming what we need or what we want.
That is a great answer. Making sure that we kind of have a seat at the table and we're not
correct.
Really forgotten until you guys, the society ends up creating a new building or the internet, and then after it's built, be like, all right, what or does this work for you? If you did it from the beginning, it would work so much better for us.
It's not an add-on. It's not like a special thing you add on at the end, and which actually usually costs more money. So, like, if you build a website and you don't make it accessible, and Absolutely. Then afterwards you have to, it's probably going to cost you much more than it would had you just coded it really well at the beginning. Or actually, a friend of mine who I think the amazing Anna Landry, was talking about the London School of Economics, and they built a brand new building, the most beautiful, super duper building. It opened last year. You cannot get in a wheelchair if you're a wheelchair user without somebody else opening the door. There are no automatic doors. There are no special, like you cannot get in a lift without someone with a key and a pass key. You'd think of all the places there was money, there was education. Did they get it right? No.
So
But you can
important.
hope. But I'm not angry. I mean, I think some of my disabled friends can be quite angry, and I get the anger. I really do. But I think I'm more of the I'm at the 80%. If 80% can work, then I can forgive the 20%. But when it's the other way around, I find it much harder.
Give us a chance to dance is what I love to say.
Oh, I like that. I have never heard that. That's lovely.
And so one of the other things I'm excited about for you is in 2023, you have a book called Life Unseen, A Story of Blindness that's going to be published. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and where people can be excited to be able to purchase it?
Well, it comes out in the UK in July, and it comes out in America in 28th of September. As you said, it's called Life Unseen, A History. It's a story of blindness, and it's about it's part memoir and part history. So each chapter is divided into something I've experienced as a blind person, whether it's someone telling me I'm a faker, to doctors saying, people telling you have to be fixed, and what if you can't be fixed? What do you do? And then making the connection to history. So on the fixed one, for example, I look at I went to see a specialist who said, actually, I can't help you. And then, you go home and all your cousins go, oh, you've got to see a new doctor in Cuba or Zurich, or there's some new thing come out on the BBC, some news item. And then you look and you say, oh, well, where does that come from? Oh, the Enlightenment. Everyone was obsessed with fixing in the Enlightenment, and this sort of the need to categorize and also to become responsible for your disability personally. So it's your fault that you didn't get fixed. So each chapter, it's 8 chapters that look at different periods in history and connect them to how we treat blind people now.
I love that. I can't wait to read it and to buy it and be a part.
I'll send you a copy.
Be a part of the club. And then when it comes to like the business world and brands, what's one thing you think we can do better regarding accessibility and inclusion within the brands and businesses of the world?
Gosh, that's a big question, isn't it? I think just at the design phase, think of there's a huge. Do you have the purple pound in the States? We have the purple pound, which is disability money, the economy, how much disabled people use in the economy. And even if you didn't give a hoot about disabled people, just let's imagine there's a world where people don't give a toss, but let's say you don't, you should be thinking about your markets and your margins, and you're going to exclude a huge amount of people if you don't, at the very beginning of your concept or service, include a group of people who will probably spend a lot of money with you.
I like that. And dollars and money speak volumes, and it's no business, wakes up and be like, let's exclude people with disabilities. But if they don't think about people with disabilities in the beginning, they might exclude them. And it's so important to make sure that people with disabilities are part of their story at every stage.
Exactly.
And Selina, this has been such a fun conversation today. And I just want to thank you so much for your time and being our guest.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And thank you for inviting me. I'm very honored.
Thank you, Selina. And to all of our guests, thank you for joining us to the end on accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions. Until next time, everybody, I hope you have a beautiful day. And remember to hit that subscribe button and also follow us on our social media at accessiB_community. Thank you so much, everyone.